Welcome to the Wine Zone. I'm Konrad Ejbich, and this is Pro and Con. My guest today, my very special guest today, is Marimar Torres. Marimar is the founder and proprietor of Marimar Estate in California, in the western hills of the Russian River Valley. She's also the sister of Miguel Torres, who runs the family winery in Spain. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so pleased to have you here. Tell me, the family, the winery in Spain goes back so long.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you leave Spain and go to California in the late 70s, early 80s?
How much time do we have?
Lots.
No, just kidding. I left Spain in 1975, within 20 days of Franco's passing. So Spain was a different...
Before or after? After his passing?
Actually, before his passing.
Just before?
Yeah. And actually, I arrived in San Francisco on November 1st, which is Halloween. So it was like total shock, you know? And anyway, so, well, do you know about Halloween in San Francisco?
Well, I don't know about Halloween in San Francisco. I know about Halloween.
Polk Street, which is the gay street of San Francisco, was closed. And it was a parade like I had never, ever seen something like that.
If you ever come to Toronto on this past week, the previous weekend, which was the weekend of around the 1st of July, second weekend of July, we have what's called Gay Pride. And we have massive parades and dress up and just parties. It's crazy.
It was crazy but fantastic. I remember with the jet lag, I remember it being, I don't know, 3 o'clock in the morning and finally falling asleep like this at a little diner. Anyway, so the family has been growing grapes since the 17th century, but it was in 1870 that an ancestor of mine, 4 generations ago, started the winery, the Torres winery, that still is today in use. And so it's been handed down from father to son for 4 generations. But guess what?
Is that it? Because it's father to son,
father to son.
and
but
you're
now
a girl.
in California, my daughter is poised to continue the family business.
Your daughter Christina.
Yes, so it will be the first time mother to daughter.
Right. So did you move to California because as a woman it would have been more difficult to start a winery or to even be in the wine business? Or
it wasn't. It wasn't premeditated. I know that I started to travel to the United States, and when I went to San Francisco for the first time in '73, I loved it. And then I made friends, and my friends made me love even more the city, so I started to go to San Francisco more and more. And when I went to Spain, I thought, I have more friends in San Francisco than in Spain. So eventually I fell in love with an American who lived in San Francisco. And we were married just before Franco died. So I went to live in California. And we were married 4 years. At the time, it seemed like a long time. And anyway,
way too long.
But anyway, after my divorce, then my family kind of expected me to go back to live in Spain, right?
Right.
And I really thought about it because, it was very tempting. I mean, my mother would have taken care of me.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have nothing to do, just sit and knit.
Not sit and knit, but it would be a very sheltered life, right? And then, that lasted about a month. It was around Christmas, and then I decided, I got a letter from a friend in San Francisco who said, you're missing all the parties. And I thought, okay, I'm going back.
Right.
So I've never looked back. And then after that, my father agreed. I was able to convince him to make a very small investment in California. So all I had money was for buying the 56 acres, which, as you know, it's less than 20 hectares. Mm-hmm. And plant half of it. So I then sold some grapes. I was able to plant the rest. And then eventually I was able to build the winery. You want to know why? How it was? We were going to build a winery in 1988. And then I took a year off and went to study viticulture and enology at UC Davis.
UC Davis, sure.
Yeah. And so I had this tiny 1-bedroom apartment, and this call came from my brother Miguel one day and said, look, we're not going to be able to build a winery in California because I need money for, an underground cellar and Chile, which we had already, and so on. So I was very sad, but then, he came to visit and I said, look, why don't you make a wine without having a winery? Always listen to your big brother. So I did. I made my first Chardonnay in 1989. It was a pretty good wine.
You made it. You were the winemaker.
we don't have a winemaker.
No, I know about that, but I mean at the time,
At the time,
you did the winemaking. You went to UC Davis.
I
You
think
studied.
more of as a team. You know, it's a team philosophy. I had a cellar master, I had a technical director,
Right.
which I still do, not the same. And then myself, I consider myself more like the team leader, and then all of us kind of, you know, take care of the vineyard and make decisions. But it's more of a team, you know.
But back
teamwork.
then, was it a bit of insecurity?
Why? No.
I don't know. You weren't insecure about making the wine. You just
No.
you just chose. I wanted to make. Everybody has a say.
Well, I wanted to make a wine, and it was a very good wine, and I had good advisors, and I had my idea of what the vineyard was supposed to be and the wine was supposed to be. So we released the wine in the spring of '91, and my father died in May of '91. So in April, I went to see him in Spain and brought under my arm, a bottle of that wine that I had made. And he tasted it, and he said, and my father was not lavish in praise, and he said that was the best white wine he had ever tasted. And my mother was there.
Fantastic.
And, yeah, it was pretty satisfying. And he said to my mother, Margarita, we must have a winery in California. So when he died, I reminded my mother, Mom, you remember, right?
Yes.
That's it. So she really pulled together, my two brothers and myself. I put all my inheritance into it, and they chipped in, and we built the winery in '92 for the first Pinot Noir harvest.
Right. Now that's interesting. Some interesting things you said. You weren't insecure about making wine. You chose to make it with your team. You talk about a team, and as that, I see that as being a different approach, the different approach of a woman. That. And I'm jumping the gun here, but I'm wondering,
Thinking.
does a woman run a winery differently from a man?
Oh, that's too generalizing.
Okay,
I think it's.
let's be
it's
more.
like saying that women are better tasters than men. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that.
Well, yeah, I have.
Well,
I avoided that question because of the
Exactly.
obvious answer that some are and some aren't.
Exactly. So the same thing.
But-
thing.
But in general, are you more nurturing? Are you more bringing people together as opposed to saying, this is how I'm going to do it because I'm the head of the company?
I've heard people in my team saying that, you treat it like you are our mother. But then recently a person that was in trouble told me that she really appreciated my being a mother figure. So it depends on the people, I don't know. I think that, but you see, the varieties that I have planted in my vineyard and the wines that I make are Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And those are, especially Pinot Noir, I think it's a more feminine wine, but that just is a coincidence, I guess. But my wines definitely, I don't think my wines would be called masculine. No.
Well, the Pinot Noir would be more subtle but very powerful.
It can be, but it's a seductive wine.
Absolutely.
It's more sensual, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you would describe it more like a woman than a man.
I would describe it as the love of my life.
See, I wouldn't describe it as powerful. I would say intense, and I would say with concentration but softness, and with intensity but delicacy, and silky but rich. You know what I mean? It has
But I would have a Cabernet or a Bordeaux, shall we say, the classic blend, for lunch. I would never have a bottle of Burgundy for lunch because my afternoon would be gone.
Really?
Sure.
Okay, but you see, Burgundy, like Bordeaux and like Pinot Noir and Cabernet, it's such a wide spectrum. So
Yes.
you have a frame of reference that's probably different from mine. I don't know.
Possibly.
See, I would do the opposite. I would have a Pinot Noir for lunch and a Cabernet for dinner.
And at the same time, Pinot Noirs in California are so much more potent than
Oh.
Burgundies.
Not mine. No. To me, it's more about balance, elegance, and what I said, delicacy, but intensity. But power, I don't know. Power is not the word I would choose. Concentration, yes.
Not so much in the taste, but in that subtle alcohol coming in and giving you that wallop.
But you see, alcohol is relative.
Mm-hmm.
Alcohol is there. It has to be in balance with everything else. If it is, and my ones usually are, around 14. Sometimes they're 13.8, sometimes they're 14.2. occasionally they're 14.5. But the important thing about alcohol, it has to be in balance with everything else.
Always.
And if the grapes have picked at the optimum point of ripeness, but not overripe, then you will get a wine that actually the alcohol gives support to everything else, and the wine will age better.
Mm-hmm.
So alcohol is not by itself nothing. It's like a great painting. You can't look at a piece of the painting and say it has too much of this or that. It's just globally, the balance and the of every element in the wine.
I like the comparison of wine to art, because I think of a great piece of art as one that has a real purity about the colors and purity of intention and just singular theme, and yet at the same time it has this powerful impact emotionally on me.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
that's
I think
purity. That's a great descriptor, I think, for a good Pinot Noir.
Right.
Yeah.
You told me earlier that you have a winemaking team, not a winemaker, and tell me how does that work? What are there men and women on the winemaking team?
There's just three of us.
Right.
There's the technical director, who's not full time,
right,
and he's responsible for the quality. Really,
right.
He makes all the winemaking decisions, if you like, but he really works with the cellar master, who is the person behind the wine. So you could call him the winemaker. And then, of course, it's my imprint, if you like, in the wines, my vision for the wines. So you could call me the winemaker, but not really. Yeah, I think more of, winemaker means making the wines. You know who makes the wines? The grapes. The grapes are the winemaker. I think of ourselves more of trying to guide those grapes into expressing best the fruit of the vineyard. So it's more like shepherding those grapes, So I'm the team shepherd,
right,
if you like.
Right. I like that word shepherd, and I like the word mother too. Nurturing,
absolutely,
guiding, not telling it where to go.
Listening to the grapes,
yeah.
Seeing as how it approaches. I go in the vineyard rows, and so do the other guys, and taste the grapes and think, okay, sometimes the day before, okay, this is what we're picking tomorrow, and sometimes no, we're not picking that tomorrow. We're waiting another day or so, So we're really kind of trying to get those grapes to represent what the vineyard's terroir is about.
Right. What made you choose Russian River Valley? It's the coolest climate in one of the coolest climates in California.
And actually, we're in the Green Valley of Russian River Valley, which is the coolest and foggiest region of the Russian River Valley, because the winds and the breezes from the Pacific
bring
the fogs in, and they through a gap in the mountains, a Petaluma gap, which is south of us, and so it just cools the vineyards going from south to north. And why did I choose it? Well, I spent 2 years looking for the ideal location for planting a vineyard. I went all the way to Mendocino and all the way down to Monterey. And finally, I saw that piece of land, and it was really love at first sight. It is so beautiful. You'll see when you come. You have to come to understand.
Oh, I will. I can hardly wait.
And,
it's been a long time since I've been to California.
Yeah, see, too long. And so my consultant said to me, well, this is very cool, and it will be good for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, but not much else. And I thought, well, nothing wrong with that. I love Burgundies, and we're not making a Pinot Noir and just a teeny bit of Chardonnay in Spain. So I thought, that's terrific. So yeah, that's how it happened.
And you're organic.
Yep.
You're organic.
Ever since
Is everyone around you organic?
Oh no. In
Does
fact, when I bought that property, I remember calling my brother Miguel and saying, first of all, it's so much. Oh, that's a lot of money, $8,000 an acre. Today's like what? And I said, well, are there any other vineyards around? I said, no, not really. It's there's one nearby, a Chardonnay vineyard, but no, not many. It was a new region then, and he said, well, that's really very risky. And I said, but it's very beautiful. So, I lucked out.
He was thinking of his hippie sister?
I don't know.
So you said 8,000 an acre. That's what it costs to maintain an acre during the year?
That's what I paid.
That's what you paid?
For the vineyard. Yeah.
My God. That's like Of course, it was a lot then.
It was a little.
It was a lot then. Today,
But-
that's absolutely nothing, nothing. I mean, vineyard space there now is hundreds of thousands.
Yep, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. If not a million, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is
So-
almost like that's like Burgundy. Speaking of which,
Oh,
we've got a
yes.
wine here
I was
that-
hoping you would invite
that
me
is called Acero.
to. Okay, you can say acero or acero.
Acero.
Just don't say acero.
Acero,
okay?
right.
So,
Right, I heard you say that. That's why I was very
Mm-hmm.
careful to say Acero. It's Acero, and it is the Marimar Estate Chardonnay
Mm-hmm.
from the Don Miguel vineyard,
named after my father.
named after your
Because
father.
since he supported me, I thought that I should give the vineyard his name. And acero means steel in Spanish, and the wine has not touched any oak. It's been steel fermented, but it's gone through malolactic, 100%. So that's why you see it has these lovely. This is what I wanted in this wine, to reflect the purity of the great Chardonnay fruit that we have in the vineyard.
Fruit,
So there's-
absolutely,
yeah,
fruit.
There's no oak to influence the fruit. It's just the purity that I like.
Mhm.
But then the malolactic also gives it the roundness, the
Softness,
texture, the
creaminess,
softness.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, this morning at the International Cool Climate Chardonnay celebration,
Mhm,
third annual,
yeah.
we tasted 7 wines, 2 of which were not yours, but your company's. This was it.
Uh-huh.
This one,
No,
it
we
was a di-
tasted
it was
the
a-
classic barrel fermented
the
Chardonnay,
classic barrel fermented.
which is
Right,
called
right.
La Masia.
And the other one we tasted was a Chardonnay from Jean Leon from
Right.
Spain.
Yeah. Yes.
And I found that when I tasted all of them, the yours from this morning and the Jean Leon had more fruit than most of the others. The others were a little more austere, a little more
Yes.
more hidden. The Jean Leon especially had this real orange nose,
Mhm.
tangerine, orange, citrus, but an orangey citrus. I wouldn't
Yeah.
specifically say tangerine or mandarin or etc. But
So
that
Jean, yeah.
you bring out that fruit.
Yeah.
And to me, the question that I had this morning is that it is a cool climate celebration,
Uh-huh.
and yet both, although Green Valley is pretty cool, California and Spain are considered kind of warm countries.
Well, California has many microclimates.
Right.
As you get inland, you see, our most important influence in the climate of California's vineyards is this mass of very cold water, the Pacific Ocean, right? The currents go to the north and then come down from Alaska, and the water is very cold.
Yes, it is. I've swum in it. It's very
exactly.
cold.
So that's, the altitude and other things that are so important in Europe. In our coastal climate doesn't have any importance. So really that's a big difference.
Mhm. And Spain, where
Spain-
where the Chardonnay grows, the Jean Leon Chardonnay grows, is that cool?
Yeah, it's higher in altitude. Yeah.
Through
I was gonna say-
altitude, right? Okay.
So let me explain. The Jean Leon is a winery that we bought in the 70s.
79.
And it used to belong to, good going. We used to belong to Mr. Jean Leon,
Yes.
who was a Spaniard who had moved to California and had a beautiful restaurant there. And then finally he just decided to sell it, and he wanted for my family to own it. So we
Way
own
back
it
in the
since.
early 80s, I had Jean Leon wines in my cellar
Really?
because they were the only wines from Spain that were made of international varieties. And I
Yeah,
wanted
absolutely.
to taste, what does a Spanish Cabernet taste like compared to one from here, compared to
Yeah.
one from here? And the same thing with the Chardonnay.
Absolutely.
Whereas if I bought a Spanish wine, I mean, there were these grapes I'd never heard of, Zarello, Mazuela, it's just all these strange names.
Uh-huh.
So as a beginner, I really appreciated the Jean Leon.
Uh-huh. Well, Jean Leon really was the first one to introduce the noble European varieties to Spain, and there were no Chardonnays being produced then, and that was in the late '60s, or Pinot Noir or Cabernet, and he brought them all in. So, and then of course my brother and him became very good friends, although I was the first one to meet him with my father. We used to go sell our wines in California. I traveled with my father, and we met him at his restaurant, and he was always wonderful with us, and had many great dinners at his restaurant La Scala. And then he became very good friends with my brother, and and they helped each other very much, and that's how it
great.
happened. Yeah.
Now, as for Marimar Estate,
Uh-huh.
you told me there's a planned succession.
Yes, absolutely.
Your daughter?
Mother to daughter, yes.
Yeah.
My daughter's only 24,
Yeah.
so she now is living on her own. She graduated from Princeton University on economics a couple of years ago. So for the next, for about 4 or 5 years, she just needs to be on her own because I don't want her to have the sheltered, overprotected life that I had.
That you had.
Yeah.
Right.
If only I had been allowed to have an MBA, which she's looking forward to doing, or if I had been, allowed to just run on my own and make mistakes on my own and stumble and fall and pick myself up, things would have been much easier. It's not impossible.
Well, yeah, but you did run on your own and stumble and fall and pick yourself up and
but it's easier when you're in your 20s, you know?
Sure.
Like right now she's living in London and working for a distributor, and her flat is so tiny, and and she has no air conditioning and no fans. And I thought, okay, should I buy her a couple of fans? Or
No. She has
right?
to fall, stumble and fall.
Yep,
Stumble and fall. Just to buy her own fans.
And it's hot in London right now.
It is, and it's hot here. It's really hot here. It's hotter here than it is in California. It's 34 degrees and plus humidex. It's
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
It's been such a thrill talking with you.
Oh,
I've
good.
spoken with your brother. I've spoken with your niece, Mireia.
Oh, and of course I almost forgot to say that Mireia is now the person in charge of Jean Leon.
Yes. That's right. Of course, that's exactly what she is in charge
And
of.
that's been for about a year now. So the one we tasted was like 2012. So her stamp already was in these wines.
Yes,
so,
and she's taking it very seriously, and the wines are lovely.
Yeah, and the one we had was called 1035 because that was the cab, the license plate that John Leon had when he was a cab driver in New York. So it's we like history.
Well, there's hope for me as a winemaker because I was a cab driver once.
There you go.
Cheers.
Okay, well, hope to see you in California, and then
You will.
we can toast with a pinot noir.
Thank you. I've been speaking with Marimar Torres. I've been drinking your wine, and I'm just totally buzzed and loving it.
Good.
Thank you for coming in, and thank you for watching. Come back again soon. We'll have more wonderful, interesting guests right here on Pro and Con. Bye-bye.